All right, let's try that again. I believe this means we are for reals live. Minor audio hiccup, just as I was muting the intro music, but we're here, we're live. Let me just start this off one more time. All right. I believe this means we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tech fans of all shapes and sorts and sizes and persuasions, welcome to another Monday morning tech chat show on the SGGQA podcast channel, a special Memorial Day episode of the podcast. I still wanted to come, hang out, spend some time with this tech crew, chat about some of the top stories that we've seen over the last week in the world of technology, and then I like to use these days as days of remembrance and checking in. A day like Memorial Day here in the United States, obviously we should be looking to spend some time thinking about those that have served, those that gave their lives protecting this country, what that means for the sort of larger global ramifications of where we find ourselves today, and that many of us have family who served. My dad is retired Air Force. My grandfather served in World War II as a communications officer, and that's something that's going to be really important for me to teach my daughter. And at the same time, because of the sacrifices made by these amazing men and women, these amazing officers and soldiers and people who served, this is also a day where we can enjoy the luxury of spending some time with some family and friends, grilling up some food, enjoying the sacrifices that they've made. Enjoying is not the right word, but I think you know what I mean by that. So, hopefully, as with any day of remembrance or any holiday, my wish for you on a day like today is that you are safe, that you are well fed, that you're healthy, that you get to spend some time, be it in person if that's your bag right now, or maybe over some kind of gadget or video call, but that you get to spend some time with people who care about you and people you care about. And I hope you get to eat some real good food while you're doing it. Food is my family's grandest tradition. And if we're going to share anything meaningful with you, it's probably going to be food. So, again, a happy Memorial Day to everyone here in the United States and worldwide. For those of you that are sort of recognizing and spending some time to think about what's going on in the world today. And also, while I was considering maybe giving myself the morning off because it was Memorial Day, this is also like my time to check in with you fine folks. Like, this is my refueling time to have these kinds of conversations, to get to hang out with the fun community. And like I was saying, if today is a day where you get to spend some time with people you care about, that's why I'm here, is because I want to spend some time with people I care about, and this live chat is already lit up. I'm seeing Dank Pikmin. Simon says Hypno subscribed with Twitch Prime. So I am terrible at the Twitch. At some point, someone's gonna have to help me make all of the things that you're supposed to do for Twitch. Like, someone subscribed, and then you're supposed to get like some kind of fanfare or special emotes. I'm so bad at this. I suck so bad at the Twitch. But Simon says Hypno, thank you for the subscription. And so let me get this out of the way here. But yes, I'm seeing a phenomenal live chat. I'd like to jump right in. As I kick my computer desk and knock over my camera and bump my mic, RIP headphone users. We've got a bit to talk about. So we've got some news. Again, the last couple weeks on the show, we've been mostly following up on stories as they evolve. So we've got a couple news articles that we want to follow up with here. Some creator news, some thoughts to share on recent podcast moves by outlets like Spotify. But then the second half of the podcast, it's pretty much going to be Sony Xperia time. So once we get through that subreddit plug and we talk about the community of people that are making cool stuff on the subreddit, if you've got questions, if you've got concerns, I am only 2 days into using the Xperia 1 Mark II, the Xperia 1 II, the Xperia 1 second gen. So there's also a poll on Twitch. What should I call this thing? If you want to vote in that poll, you can vote in that poll, because I'm leaning towards just calling it the Mark II because I'm an Iron Man nerd. Okay. Yes, lots of chatter. Some very strong impressions to share with only using the phone for 2 days, and then we can go from there to have that conversation. But let's jump into some housekeeping. What is it? 9:06 in the a.m. Pacific time. Let's see if I can get through housekeeping in 10 minutes, because a lot of stuff came out last week. So I'm not going to editorialize all the things that I did last week. Sam saying 12 minutes. All right. That's my over-under. Or, well, actually, I should say, what is my over-under? But Heikki and Sam both saying 12 minutes. So let's see if I can do this in under 12 minutes. Mr. Penriquez, full review for the Xperia right now. It feels really nice in the hand, and it's got a screen, so that's pretty cool, actually, if you think about it. All right, let's go into screen share. I'm saying from 9:06, I'm already wasting time. Number one, last week, right after the podcast, I returned to one of my favorite accessories manufacturers, Rhino Shield, who had an amazing collection of accessories for the iPhone SE, and especially one of my all-time favorite cases, because they have this print with little wiener dogs wearing sweaters, and it's so much more fun to show that off than like a black carbon fiber case. So when I originally reviewed my very first Rhino Shield, they asked if there would be any prints that I was interested in, and I said, give me the case with the wiener dogs on it. And the PR rep remembered that. So they sent me out a little care package, because all of my iPhone 8 stuff went back to Pocket Now after I left Pocket Now. And so I had no case ready to go for my iPhone SE. Moving right along. So yes, that's a video. You can watch that video. I think it's a fun video. Then we had a Newegg entry. This is a hands-on with some stem twists for popular toys, building block sets, is sort of a Connect style bending and erector set style kits, and then also some magnet tile kinds of toys. And I actually got to play with these with my daughter. So they sent them out, and Lex and I had a lot of fun building racetracks and marble runs, and Newegg put together a video on some STEM toys that you can check out. And again, I'm trying to avoid specific name brands, but these might be very inexpensive ways to augment your collection of name brand STEM kits and STEM toys. If you're familiar with kids' toys. But again, I just think it's a fun video, and I was really happy that Newegg was able to kind of include some of that footage that I shot from my phone with my daughter. Then there was a nice little embargo video. The One More Dual Driver ANC Pro Wireless Bluetooth Neckband Earbuds. I really still need to talk to One More about their product names, because their product names are literally what the products are. Well, what is this product? Well, it's a dual driver, active noise cancellation, neckband, wireless audio solution. Gads, that's what we shall call our product. And I like to, when they had the Stylish, their true wireless, their first true wireless were called the Stylish. And that's easy for me to say. Saying One More Dual Driver ANC Pro, that's more syllables. So as much as I love this product, and you can check out the video, there was a good goof in this video where I tested it. And when I tested it, there's a cable that you can plug in so that you can get a 3.5 millimeter jack. So you can convert this wireless headset into a wired headset if you want to use them with things that don't use Bluetooth. It's one of the advantages of a neckband, is having a little bit more flexibility. And when I tested it, I completely borked. I figured it would be just like cans. You plug it in, it should bypass the internals, and maybe that'll be good for battery if you run out of battery or something like that. And that's absolutely not how those are supposed to be used. So there's a fun little comment disclaimer on how I messed that up, because I am human and to err is divine. I don't know, and it's something like that. Moving right along, part one of a massive two-parter. I have been struggling with how to properly compare phones like the OnePlus 8, OnePlus 8 Pro, and the LG V60. Not this last week, but the week before, I put out a video asking for help, and the general consensus seemed to be breaking this up into two videos, and the first video went live last week. OnePlus versus LG Part 1. Are you looking for a V60 or a OnePlus 8? And so we're looking at sort of a price feature comparison tier of just the V60 as a phone, against the OnePlus 8, where prices are pretty close these days. I don't know who needs to hear this in the United States, but if you're looking for a Verizon 5G phone, I believe the V60 is going for around $600, maybe $550. So that makes it the cheapest buy into a Snapdragon 865 with 5G today. But I'm kind of comparing more on the T-Mobile side because I use Google Fi and prices are a little bit closer between the V60 and the OnePlus 8, and that's kind of where the retail launch prices were. So I figured that would be a fair comparison. LG said that this was a phone priced here, OnePlus said this was a phone priced there, and they kind of meet up at the price tag, but with very different features and software and accessories. Part 2 is going to look at what happens when we take a OnePlus 8 Pro, which is like $1,000 phone, and we compare it against a V60 with accessories to match at $1,000. So these two videos will kind of staple together, and I think it'll be a good overall comparison of what OnePlus and of what LG has to talk about, or at least how they're trying to compete. Then, because of so this needs just a touch of explanation too. I posted this video. I was just feeling really cranky. This is something I was looking for a case for the LG V60. There are not many cases for the LG V60. I had just gone back to look at my Rhino Shield video, where if you have an iPhone 8 case, it's going to work with your iPhone SE, and just how nice that is, an ecosystem of products where an accessory can live beyond the initial phone purchase. And we don't have that in Android land. So I put out this video. It's an open letter to Android manufacturers. Please stop making, quote, new smartphones. It's not to say I don't want you to come out with refreshed phones every year, but I'm getting increasingly frustrated with a conversation around gadgets where people flip out about a minute change in bezel or a curve to the display, and where the phones are becoming increasingly similar year to year to year, but then the manufacturer will tweak just this one little thing, and then you can't use the same case, or you might have a cradle or a mount. It prevents us from having longer term accessories like Razer's Project Linda. You remember that? It was the laptop cradle, and you would put the phone where the touchpad would be, and the phone would become the touchpad for a laptop. Well, that only works if you commit to that phone dimensions, that phone form factor, so that this expensive laptop dock doesn't die with this one smartphone. When we change these things year to year, it completely guts the accessories market. It harms the consumer identification. I feel the brand label and the brand ID is way more important for lifestyle consumers than the individual aesthetic of one generation of phones. And Apple shows us they're still going to make money hand over fist. They're going to make so much money on the iPhone SE. That phone is going to be crazy profitable for Apple, and it's the same form factor as the iPhone 6. Basically, the iPhone 6 has been making Apple money. We're going to go on 7 generations by the time we're done selling the iPhone SE. That, if we're going to copy anything from Apple, we should copy that. Because I want companies to be more profitable. So I got a bunch of people saying, oh, well, that can't happen in Android. Look what happened when Samsung went from the Galaxy S8 to the Galaxy S9, and that was too similar looking. Missing the point, because it was similar enough, but you still had to buy different accessories, that it ticked off a lot of consumers who might have been game for a 1-year refresh. Again, as many people complain about, I need a phone to look more exciting every year, you have an equal number of people who are like, man, if I get a new phone, then I'm probably going to have to get a new phone cradle because phones are getting bigger. I might have to get a car dash mount because it's different, or at least need to get new pads if I have a magnetic mount accessory. I have to get a new case. I don't know, does this use a different charger technology? I'm going to have to buy a new charger. All of these things down the line, because we're locked into this idea of new every year. do what Apple does. Come out with a new color, but keep the same frame. I'd love to have a V10 or a V20, the same form factor with modern guts, an OLED screen and instead of some of those LCDs, like this shouldn't be this difficult. And companies would save money over that manufacturing period by not reinventing the wheel every year. Stick to a 3-year cycle. Do what Apple does. iPhone 10, iPhone 10s, iPhone 11. Do you think anyone cares that they are exactly the same looking phones? No, nobody cares. So that was my open letter and editorial. And again, it's always interesting to see who kind of pushes back against that idea. But the biggie, and again, what we're going to be talking about in the second half is the Sony Xperia, the Mark II, as I'm choosing to call it. And I kicked off with, I couldn't help myself. I was planning a first impressions video, and that made me exhausted. And then I pulled out my V60 and just kind of went to town comparing the Xperia 1 Mark II versus the LG V60 Pro camera options. This is a follow-up. I did the exact same thing with the Xperia 1 versus the V50. And it's even more exciting seeing how these options have changed, have evolved, and have kind of pivoted. Where this year I feel like there's an even bigger separation between the target consumers for the Xperia 1 Mark II versus the LG V60. So, I mean, price notwithstanding, because especially if you buy the phone on Verizon, there's a $700 price difference between the Xperia Unlocked and the LG V60 on Verizon. You could buy a whole other phone for what Verizon's charging for the V60 right now. Hold on, I gotta take a sip of water. But just camera capabilities, features, options, modes, and software. I really feel we need to be talking about premium devices with more nuance than, well, an average lowest common denominator consumer is only going to push the shutter button. And if that's the case, I mean, that's fine. A lot of people are going to buy a V60 and never dig into any of the expanded features or options that the V60 has to offer. But I feel as a gadget reviewer, it's my job to not sell that person a phone they're not going to use. It's my job to point that consumer towards a Pixel A series, a Galaxy A series, an iPhone SE, the Xperia 10, a Motorola. What am I missing? The TCL. I mean, come on. You want to overbuy for a phone? Why point someone towards a $1,200 Sony for the auto mode on the camera when I could point them towards a TCL 10 Pro? And again, I think they're actually going to like that experience better. And then, the price will be kind of nice that I didn't have to spend so much on a phone that I wasn't going to use all this stuff that I paid for. So I know my snarkiness seems to get in the way of some of my commentary, but it is interesting seeing like some of the comments on people that are jumping through hoops to ignore what I say, because I kind of made fun of some tech tubers who don't really review phones except for like what the DxO score was, or whatever's just most popular. The trending, if I know that this phone's going to win for SEO, well, it'll be the phone that wins in my showdown, because that'll make more people happy, and then more people will watch my video. But if I call that out, Juan's tone. I just can't handle Juan's tone. Let me clutch my Android gadget fan pearls. He's saying mean things. But I'm not saying mean things. I'm just saying them in a snarky way. All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up for housekeeping. What did I hit? Well, I hit 13 minutes. Woo! 13 minutes. That was a lot to say. A lot of stuff went out on the channel this last week. And there's going to be quite a bit this week, too. I've got a ton of podcasting to record. And then a lot of videos coming out also. The other part of that OnePlus versus LG video, some hot takes on the Xperia. Me and TK are going to be trying to work together a little bit more on our Xperia coverage. I need some help from TK because he's actually a Sony shooter. So his favorite camera is a Sony Alpha. And just, my purview in audio is something that is going to help complement his videos. His camera experience with Sony is going to help my videos. So we're also going to be doing some live streams together. So a lot of stuff. a lot of stuff to talk about and a lot of stuff coming to both of our channels that I hope you're going to check out. Vasicos 8, those pearls are doing overtime. Book, last time I was here, Housekeeping was like 90% of the show. You lie. I feel attacked. Why must you attack me like that? It was 70% at most. Oh, and Tech Rant over on the Periscope. I got some snarkiness too. Again, I like, so again, I think folks, if you're not watching Tech Rant's channel, I very much enjoy commentary on commentary. I feel like there's a media literacy issue at play with how YouTube manipulates our feeds, just like Facebook. Algorithms that try and hype up popularity, and then whether or not people are leaning into that, I feel it's worth commenting on because I want this tech landscape to look better. I want conversations to be held in a more fair arena. Oh, wow. Someone just shared on our Discord. What? Oliver, wearing the bokeh hoodie. Hold on, I got to show this. Oh, no, I can't. Hold on, Hey, look at this. My limited edition bokeh hoodie being worn in person. I know you probably did not want me to share this photo on the podcast, but I'm sharing it. I love it. I love it. So just a heads up, my birthday is in August. I will be bringing back the limited edition bokeh shirt and bokeh hoodie in August to celebrate my birth month if you guys want to check that out. All right. Let's jump into some news. Like I said, I want to try and get through news efficiently because already folks are asking me some great questions about the Xperia. I want to talk about the Xperia. I'm really excited about the Xperia. Ooh, JJ, that's a good question. Are Grados overrated or are they like people say? I base my choice by Patrick Norton's suggestions. Push pause on that question. I might not be able to get back to it, JJ, but if I can't, hit me up after, because that's a really fun audio geeky question to get into. I might not have room for it on this show. So, sorry, back. Some news. One of the major news topics we've been trying to chat about, we've been trying to converse, is what to do about the spread of disinformation and how do we rein in the impacts of conspiracy theories? How do we source where they come from? Is there a way that we can fix some of the most glaring issues of social media and how social media will blow up a topic? It's all popularity based. It's hard. I get very anxious about deplatforming and who gets to decide on whether a piece of content should be online. I don't disagree with deplatforming because we are talking about private corporations, but we're using these private corporate services as public methods of disseminating information. And it causes a lot of conflicts. So this story isn't necessarily focusing on the actual deplatforming, but it's data. And we need to be factoring in this data when we examine where does our news come from and who's sharing pieces of information so that we can push back against some of the more negative trends. Let me get this out of the way here. So we can push back against some of the more negative trends that we see. So this is coming by way of Carnegie Mellon, the School of Computer Science, written up by Virginia Young on cscmu.edu. Nearly half of the Twitter accounts discussing reopening America may be bots. From the article, scrolling through your Twitter feed, it may not be obvious when you come upon a bot account, something that is more likely to occur in the era of the situation. Carnegie Mellon University researchers have discovered that much of the discussion around the situation and stay-at-home orders is being fueled by misinformation campaigns that use convincing bots. To analyze bot activity around the situation, CMU researchers since January have collected more than 200 million tweets discussing the situation. Of the top 50 influential retweeters, 82% are bots. Of the top 1,000 retweeters, 62% are bots. We are seeing a coordinated activity which points to an active misinformation campaign. Now, they're going through and they're starting to talk to. There are some quotes in here from the Center for Computational Analysis of Social and Organized Systems, and the Center for Informed Democracy and Social Cybersecurity. We're seeing a calculated and coordinated spread of misinformation to make this topic as polarizing as possible, as divisive as possible. It's designed to get people fighting amongst themselves, and then to also discourage traditional, sort of verified methods of news delivery. Kind of like some of our 5G conspiracies, right? We use these sciencey terms and we trust science over here, but we don't believe that scientists. So we believe scientists are up to no good over here, and it's this kind of mind kink. And once that kink is sort of lodged into someone's brain, I don't know that there's any way to completely walk that person back. I don't know that there's any way to properly inform them and get them just reconsidering their sort of dug in the heels stance, because it's so emotionally engaging to feel like you're a truth seeker, or that you have information that you wake up, sheeple, I know the real truth, and this is what you need to really listen to, and it's insidious. It's very concerning, and it seems to largely affect already the more vulnerable members of our society. So it's Aditya NL, hashtag some kinky guy. Thanks Aditya. From Sam, wait a sec, someone is using social media and general media in general to steer and push an agenda of infighting and tribalism? Question mark. But this is also where I still want to continue appealing to the best aspects of online communication and social media. We need to find systems that help us push back against this. It's not that we give up. It's that we examine what the challenges are. We try and figure out where this nonsense is coming from, and then we find ways of better diminishing it. I don't know what the answer is, and I fear we'll probably have to find some mini fallout. I think it'll be upsetting. I think part of this industry will need to crater, and then what we rebuild from it will be more robust and better designed for the spread of information, as opposed to hyping viral information. And I don't know what that looks like, but we'll have to see. Simon says, Hypno, some gimping guy. Well, I don't know that's probably more suggestive than you meant it to be. Oh, wow. That next hashtag. Okay, moving right along. This article came by way of Dexter Cumberbatch. Dexter has been tweeting me articles for a while now, and he wanted to share this one from CNET News, so I appreciate the heads up on this article. Coming by way of CNET, written up by Ian Scher, Apple Siri whistleblower pushes EU for more reforms on voice recording tech. And from the article, last year, a former Apple contractor made waves by raising concerns about how the tech giant handled Siri voice assistant recordings, ultimately leading the tech giant to cease listening to them without your permission. Now the whistleblower is back, having sent a letter to European regulators asking them to investigate and potentially punish the company. Quote, I am extremely concerned that big tech companies are basically wiretapping entire populations despite European citizens being told the EU has one of the strongest data protection laws in the world. Former Apple contractor Thomas Le Bonis? I have no idea how to pronounce your name. I am so sorry. He wrote in a Wednesday letter to EU regulators, quote, passing a law is not good enough. It needs to be enforced upon privacy offenders. And so CNET's got just sort of a write-up with links that kind of take you through a part of this saga. This is a person who quit Apple last year, brought up these concerns where Siri activations were saving basically open and accessible audio on Apple servers, and that humans were doing a lot of listening to those recordings and then using that human graded scoring to help improve, Siri's automated voice processing capabilities, which was sort of opaque. It wasn't as clear as I think Apple was trying to make it sound from a company that advertises very heavily on privacy and data security, that random activations of Siri and purposeful activations of Siri, and even just sort of sampled audio from, because again, this is what's so tricky. You look at like a smart speaker, you look at your smartphone, and you have a hot word, something that activates the listening protocol, and you go from there. But that speaker still has to sample a lot of audio to determine when the hot word is activated. And we saw this with a case, I want to say it was a little bit more than a year ago, with Amazon speakers, where there was they were trying to get Amazon to deliver audio samples that might have helped during a murder investigation. But again, if these audio recordings are saved on Amazon servers, then that's not the policy that Amazon disclosed with how their smart speakers work. Because according to them, we're only going to take snippets of audio after a hot word is detected, and then we're recording this to analyze it. But if the smart speaker is able to record audio prior to a hot word or without any activation of a hot word, then these things are not working like how they're advertised to us. And this was someone taking sort of some inside information from having worked at Apple and examining their policy for how Siri operates on phones too. So it's this is, again, it's something that we need to continue looking at. But if there's going to be any movement on it, I would imagine it would probably happen in the EU first. It looks like we've got LFA reviews. Everyone say, hey, LFA. I got to take another drink of water here. LFA also had some great videos on that one more Bluetooth neckband, so everyone should be following LFA if you love your ears. If you hate your ears, if you wish you could not hear things with your ears, then you shouldn't follow LFA. LFA Day! But yeah, so hopefully we hear some kind of follow-up on this, because data privacy, data security, increasingly sensitive topics given the current state of the world, and some recent legislation that's also going through, here in the United States when it comes to how we handle privacy in the United States and what that might mean for things like amendments to the Patriot Act. I am not currently qualified to comment on everything that's happening right there, but I've got a lot of reading to do. Okay, so, Trenton Marshall on Twitch? What? Mr. Tech Rant? Hey, I like this. I like Trent is on Twitch. Again, another YouTube channel I feel you should all be following if you like your commentary with a side of snark. All right. And I need to mention that Heikki is back. Heikki was gone for a while and we missed him, and it's better for Heikki to be here. All right, moving right along. I don't want to get too hung up on all the news stuff. Let me get out of here, because there's another Apple follow-up story, which is actually a bit bigger. I kind of wanted to start with the whistleblower talking about Siri. Apple spends a lot of money marketing data security, privacy. They make a lot of money by making sure you can't switch Siri away from Google search, but they don't sell your private data. They don't sell your usage to other companies, but they make billions a year by not letting you switch the default search on Siri. But they don't sell your data, but they make billions. But they don't sell your data. So this is a little bit concerning. It's not a doom and gloom story. It's not a sky is falling. It's not a ha ha apple sheeple people kind of story. But when we point to situations like this, we need to examine the company's marketing against their actual practices and whether or not they can really live up to the standard that they're promising. So this is a story by way of Wired, but it blew up in most tech circles. There was a lot of commentary on this. There's a jailbreak out for the current version of iOS. Written up by Lily Newman on Wired.com. The Uncover tool works on all versions of iOS from 11 to 13.5, which is the current release. From the article, over the years, Apple has made it prohibitively difficult to install unimproved software on its locked down devices, but on Saturday, a hacker group called Uncover released a tool that will jailbreak all versions of iOS from 11 to 13.5. It's been years since the jailbreak has been available for a current version of iOS for more than a few days, making this yet another knock on Apple's faltering security image. Let me get it here. This jailbreak basically just adds exceptions to the existing rules. Uncover's lead developer, who goes by Pwn2Owned, told Wired it only enables reading new jailbreak files and parts of the file system that contain no user data. And it looks like parts of this can bypass Apple's security. So one of the things about a jailbreak like this is when you reboot the phone, it's not persistent. It's not exactly the same as like rooting an Android device. But because the flaw is in this iOS kernel, there are parts of it that are persistent, that do live beyond, a reboot. So you can't just scrub this out. There is a persistent flaw in iOS that they have been able to take advantage of, and it's something that apparently has existed from iOS 11 all the way up to the current flavor of iOS. Though I would expect that some type of change in a future iOS update will probably break this exact mechanism. But now that we've found sort of a little gap in the armor here, I would imagine it's going to be easy to continue iterating on certain security flaws. This is concerning because at the same time as this massive jailbreak has been discovered, this is also from the Wired article, so let me go back into screen share here. Apple has had its hands full with iOS security complications in recent weeks. The firm Zerodium, which buys and sells zero-day exploits, said last week that it's pausing collection of most types of iOS vulnerabilities due to high supply. And the company suggested that iOS exploit chains used to take over iPhones, once coveted for their power and scarcity, may soon drop in price, perhaps indicating that iOS vulnerabilities are now easier to come by. In September, Zerodium sold an Android hacking tool for more than its iOS tools for the very first time. So this is very, very broad. We've covered a number of stories in the past, like law enforcement trying to force Apple to build backdoors into their products. And at the same time, they've been able to take advantage of some of these security firms that have these boxes that can basically dismantle iPhones, iPhone security. We've seen this cat and mouse game with certain security chips and security protocols. Apple cracking down on hardware for right to repair issues. Like, it doesn't matter if you took a screen out of one iPhone and you try to put it into another iPhone. The software is reading the serial number and the serial numbers don't match, so we're going to brick your phone because security. But when it comes to iOS, Apple really hasn't been living up to that standard that they set for themselves when, the iOS versus Android security debate was a bit more lopsided. We've seen Google and Google partners iterate and improve. But it seems that in successive generations of iOS, while The speed of the operating system is improved. A lot of the bugs and gremlins from like the iOS 10 days have been ironed out. There's been less iteration on crazy new features and more refinement of the platform, and then forking it off so that you have iPad OS as well. It doesn't seem like Apple really has continued to operate at the same tier for making iOS the promise that Apple is trying to make. That because it's a locked ecosystem, you can only get your phones from Apple, you can only install software from Apple. We're going to make sure that this is, the safest walled garden with a trench and a moat and spikes and torches. No one's going to get into here except for all of the people that seem to be able to get into here. It's a concerning development for the popularity of the platform. The iPhone is the single best-selling line of individual phones, and each version of the iPhone seems to dominate the sales of its price category, especially here in the United States. We've seen Apple make significant headroads into government and military use, where iPhones are certified and they're approved devices for national security. We've got some concerns there. And at the same time, we've also seen this resurgence of iPhone hacking and cracking tools, whether they be software tools or literally like I connect this phone to a box and then I give all the data that I find to it to the FBI. So we're seeing an arms race here. This is kind of what I would hope to see. I don't want to see Apple cave and make a backdoor so that the CIA or the FBI can just get into any phone anytime they want. We don't want that. What we want to see is Apple deliver the absolute best security that they can make, and then we want to see law enforcement try and build a better battery RAM. That should be the cat and mouse game. Right now, the pendulum has swung, and I don't see where Apple is delivering the best possible security they can, and the tools to crack these things open have gotten pretty sophisticated. So, concerns. Whether it's not that immediately tomorrow no one should ever buy an iPhone, but for those of you who are a bit more security conscious, for those of you who might operate in an industry where this type of security matters, I used to have, security card clearance for Department of Energy. They would be very interested in a story like this today. It's good to be aware of what the situation really looks like. This story, and especially what I'm going to be linking to, is the Wired article, is more focused on just sort of the jailbreaking aspect and how people can install their own software and stuff. But there is some commentary in here, and there is some conversation in here, and it's worth having a broader conversation about how one security exploit that allows you to sideload software is also a security exploit that people can take advantage of if they have less than noble intentions for how they use iOS devices. And at the same time, we've seen rumors that like a build of iOS 14 has already managed to leak out into the ecosystem. The traditional idea of Apple as this bastion of protection is starting to fall apart. I still see all, the billboards around Los Angeles about, data, privacy, security, iPhone. You're like, cool. I think you need to work on that, though. From Vasicos 8, Max Weinbach actually said Android is more secure than iPhone in Viper's podcast. It would seem, again, you can't say Android is more secure than iOS, but it would seem that certain Android phones can be better secured than Apple devices. We've also talked recently about Xiaomi, sort of sending all of your browser data to servers in very easily identifiable ways. So again, it's who's making the claim, what is the claim, and do they live up to the claim? Xiaomi is not making any claim of super enhanced corporate data security. Apple is, Samsung is, HTC used to make that claim. Again, you want to see, does this product really live up to that standard? I still feel, I think the only company in my personal experiences that has come close was BlackBerry. One of the reasons you did not get Android updates was because BlackBerries ran a very modified build of Android that could not be rooted. As far as I know, even back to the Priv, the bounty for rooting a Priv has never been claimed. You cannot roll back to previous versions of Android on a BlackBerry. And while people were upset, well, I'm not getting monthly security patches. A lot of the stuff that gets updated in monthly security patches was not relevant to a BlackBerry, even a BlackBerry running Android. I still feel it's a bummer that we don't have a BlackBerry phone out now, because that's the kind of device I want in my doctor's hand, right? You have access to all of my charts and all of my medical data and all of the data on all of your patients. I want a device that can't be rooted or cracked or manipulated in any way, even if it's a little less sexy from where I'm watching Netflix videos. But we don't have those now because nerds. All right, moving right along. Let's get to the sort of the title news story. By the way, there was also a story someone else shared. I really didn't get a chance to read into it much. I would recommend people go out and check it out on their own. While we're talking about data, privacy, security, it's important to know your rights. And right now there's a court battle happening about content on your phone. If you have Face Unlock, is that something that law enforcement can use to open your device without your permission? The contents of your phone should be sort of like the contents of your home, right? Like you should need a warrant or some other higher degree of legal responsibility before someone can open a device that has like all of your personal information stored on it. So there were these weird gray area rules, like law enforcement cannot compel you to give up a password, but if they can get your fingerprint, then they can open your phone. And a recent circuit judge has just stated that just turning on your lock screen should be considered a violation of your privacy. That law enforcement should seek a warrant just to push the power button on your phone, let alone opening to examine any other contents in there. Very interesting development. We need to see where that goes. I'm sure it's going to get appealed. This could be a case that makes its way up to the Supreme Court, but that's where we're currently standing. And I very much agree with this as a policy. For, again, how much of our lives live through our phones, and then our reliance on biometric data like face scanning and fingerprint scanning. I don't feel, well, one, I just don't feel they're the best. Like, you're wearing your password out in public. Anyone who gets your phone can just hold it up to your face. Ha! I have defeated your security. But knowing that that's the world we live in, I feel our legal system should be examining how we handle search and seizure of property. Matt Tyler, there's always going to be security issues with Face ID and companies storing info and unlocking with a picture, and 90% of phones with Face Unlock. Absolutely agree. Mr. Penriquez, I agree with that judge. And Sam, just get a warrant. Sam should know, because Sam's got a background in law enforcement. Sam, you crazy terrier of a podcaster, I love you. All right, let's get to this actual story. I have a lot of thoughts on this one. I have concerns, and it makes me a little bit sad. And I kind of feel like someone got played, and it wasn't Spotify. Lots of news on this. This was kind of a big business deal, and let me get into the story, and then I'll start explaining all my complicated feelings on it. Sam, you're a manic chihuahua. Spotify snags Joe Rogan's podcast as its latest exclusive. And the video version of the show will also move to Spotify later this year. Written up by Chris Holt on Engadget.com. Spotify has added another major podcast to its audio war chest, The Joe Rogan Experience. On September 1st, the show will arrive on Spotify for the first time, with all users, including those on the free tier, having access to the full JRE archive. At some point before the end of the year, the podcast will become a Spotify exclusive. And the video version of the podcast is also moving to Spotify, which just started testing video podcasts this month as part of the multi-year deal. The show's YouTube channel will remain active, but Rogan said it'll only host clips rather than full episodes. And he'll also retain full creative control and ownership of JRE. So going through the stats, where he gets around 190 million downloads a month. No one knows exactly what the deal was, but based on some information that's come out, people are assuming that this could have been around $100 million deal. I think even at $100 million, Rogan got played. Given the fanatical following that his podcast has, considering the outlets that he publishes it on, considering the opportunities he could have had for a conversion on self-publishing through some kind of crowdfunding initiative or direct sales. Not even if he did. So like I used to listen to a bit of Sam Harris. I really don't like what Sam Harris did with his podcast. I very much respect the philosophy that Sam Harris did not want to serve ads on his podcast, and he was reaching out to people directly for funding that show. What he did instead was the public version of his podcast just gets cut in half. He's got an hour-long conversation with someone talking about psychedelics. Boom, you get 30 minutes for free. Second half of the podcast, you've got to be a Patreon subscriber. I don't like that. But I feel that because the Joe Rogan experience is sort of built on advertising, there could have been a model where Joe offered a $2 a month, or even, I mean, again, for Joe Rogan's podcast, you could probably convert at like a $2 an episode or even $5 an episode and make money on that with even just a tiny portion of his followers converting and going to that paid model to get a Joe Rogan podcast where they don't have to skip over ads. I feel like he probably could have made more money. Moving forward, his audience is completely linked with Spotify. The old subscriptions, like where he was on Apple Podcasts, those are going to be indirectly. Spotify is now a middleman in between Joe and his audience. And if he decides to leave Spotify in, like, let's say this deal's for 5 years. Sure. I don't even know what the particulars of this deal are. Let's say he leaves Spotify. If he's built up any new follower, any new community there, he doesn't have direct access to moving them over to a different platform. So that's already a loss. And those old subscriptions are dead. So anyone who was subscribed to the Joe Rogan experience is going to delete that out of their podcasting app and listen to him through Spotify. He has an immediate hit to the reach of his podcast. Not everyone is going to follow him to Spotify. The impact of his show is diminished. The ad sales and the advertiser rates automatically drop. This is a huge boon for Spotify because even with Joe Rogan subscriptions dropping significantly, this is still going to be a humongous show for Spotify's metrics. And then when Joe Rogan leaves, or if Joe Rogan leaves, he doesn't get to just one-to-one take that audience with him. He has been removed. He has been separated by a small degree, but enough. There's a schism between Joe and his subscribers. And this is what makes me very anxious. And this is why I really hope that this move fails. Not for any ill will for Joe Rogan, whether or not I enjoy his show, whether I think any of that's even germane. Podcasting is our last true user-generated ecosystem. It is not platform dependent. It is not reliant on any one service. Even though it's called podcasting and it came from the days of the iPod, and Apple Podcasts is a dominant force in how podcasts are ranked and accessed and downloaded, Apple cannot control who sets up an audio show each week, gives out an RSS link, and makes a show subscribable. every single platform that has tried to turn podcasting into a walled garden, a subscription, a unique entertainment experience has failed. And it fails because podcasting is truly free. No other service can offer this. YouTube isn't this. Facebook isn't this. Instagram isn't this. IGTV, nothing else works like podcasting. Everyone in this live chat today, free of any type of encumberment, terms of service, you can go and make a show. Set up a free blog and build an RSS feed, and just all you have to do is find some way of storing audio files on the internet. Done. I really hope this move goes poorly and that Spotify is not able to make any kind of significant inroads in walling off podcasting as a service. I do not want podcasting to become mentally linked with any one app or service or company. It needs to be diverse. It needs to spread. It needs to be free. And I'm a little disappointed that Joe Rogan made this move. The man hustles. He is an extremely hardworking entertainer. I don't begrudge him, trying to make money as easily as possible. But I feel with, bringing on a business manager and someone that could run sort of the side end or a side offshoot of direct monetizing, that his audience probably could have made up the difference year over year on what he's going to make with Spotify. And he would own everything. He would still be in complete control of his platform. It's disappointing. Where Joe Rogan goes in podcasting, I feel a lot of other people will probably try to make similar pivots to try and get money from individual services. And that's where podcasting will go to die. And that makes me sad. I'm very anxious about the success of this as a model. I do not want Spotify to become the service that gets to control podcasting. Oh, we got a bunch of commentary in here. Okay. Adichie Anil. Okay, Juan, let me stop you right there. Anyone can start an OnlyFans. Oh no. Actually, the fact that I just said OnlyFans means I'm probably going to get demonetized on YouTube. From Kepper67, free podcasting. From JJ4884, if I would raise that if you want exclusivity with your favorite hosts, premium is a good move. I mean, if you mean Spotify premium, I'm not entirely sure what you mean there. So please follow up on that. I'm kind of curious what you mean by exclusivity. From Jim, what Spotify? I only use Podcast Addict. I like Podcast Republic, so there. From Q3 Becker, where's your podcasting license, mate? Oh, man. Aditya Anil, hustle, hashtag some Gary V guy. I was a big fan of Gary V. I got to meet him at South by Southwest. Gary Vaynerchuk is such a trip. You see some people and they've got this lit energy. I'm super hyped. I'm lit up. Let's be lit. And so, you kind of wonder, man, like, is Gary Vaynerchuk really like that? Or is he putting on like some kind of like hyped stage persona? So I'm in between some showings at South by Southwest. I can't even remember how long ago this was. But I was there to cover tech and movies, and I didn't stay for the week of music. But I'm leaving this one sort of a creator roundtable, which was really, really dull, and I can't even remember who was sitting there. I've got photos of it, like I was going to write about it, and then halfway through I kind of just stopped. But anyway, I'm leaving that roundtable, and I see this dude, and he is just strutting. I mean, like, shoulders squared, and he's clipping, and he's like moving through this crowd, and I'm like, holy crap, that's Gary V. So I kind of like moved to intercept because he's walking towards me, and I moved to intercept, and Gary Vaynerchuk? And he's like, yeah. Like no one else was stopping him. No one else was like, trying to pick him out. He's like, hey, I just wanted to shake your hand. I'm a really big fan. I was like, dude, that's great. It was like, energy was at 10 with him walking through the crowd. As soon as I shook his hand, energy was at 15. And just like, oh man, he really is like this. Again, I was like, I really appreciate the authenticity of that force of personality. Whew. So yeah, from Pata, and this is what I'm hoping. I think podcasting is too entrenched at this point to drastically change as a whole. I hope that's true. And again, let's say Spotify makes some huge moves, locking up some high-profile creators. I hope that doesn't become synonymous with podcasting. Some of my favorite movie review shows, the folks who were doing Last Podcast on the Left, I really enjoyed that show. Great show. Made me kind of sad when they made the move to become Spotify exclusive. And again, I can't fault them for the success. I can't fault them for landing a good deal and getting properly recognized for their hard work and their efforts and monetizing that. But there's a philosophy that makes me very anxious. And I say this while, the SGGQA podcast is available on Spotify. I'm not getting paid. I would like to formally announce that I am not going to earn $100 million for making my podcast an exclusive on Spotify. So from Dank Pikmin God was here. I do podcasting, but only on Spotify because I don't know where else to put it on. Again, that's one of the blessings and the curses of a podcast is you can kind of put it anywhere. If you've got any reputable, consistent RSS feed, send it to Google, send it to Apple, any other podcasting services. You can do anything with it. You can keep it on Spotify, but there you go. It's completely open. I even have trouble keeping up with the different services where my podcast should go. So yeah, there you go. I think that's probably about as good a place to sort of transition out. We're talking about Joe Rogan, one of the biggest, most influential players in the world of online media. Again, a huge amount of effort and again, deserving of a lot of success and praise for building a media empire, which makes XM radio look paltry by comparison. When you look at download numbers versus streamers on satellite radio and traditional broadcasting, Joe Rogan is enormous. But building that kind of a following today, I feel, is a bit more challenging. I recently had a creator chat with Viper, the man about tech, the captain of Team Apple, and he was very candid about some of the issues and some of the struggles that he's had building his own community because of things like YouTube algorithms. So increasingly, I want to find better ways to help promote, help share, and help people build that are platform agnostic, that aren't another subscription service, that don't require you to do much more than what you would normally do to help share the work of another content creator. So let me get this out of the way here. So every podcast has a subreddit, and my podcast is no different, but my subreddit is designed to help content creators we feel deserve more attention. It's growing every week. Every week I'm so happy to say we lost 2 subscribers, but we got 6 more. It's very small. This is a very homegrown, grassroots. I want it to be an authentic community of people organically participating, not me trying to manipulate Reddit's algorithms so that we can manipulate YouTube's algorithms. I want this to be a genuine place for you to find cool stuff. Because I feel, again, from my snarky tone in some of my videos and reviews, there's a major problem in how Facebook and YouTube will cultivate your entertainment for you. and you don't get exposure to smaller players. In fact, they try to push smaller players out of the way. Do this on YouTube. Subscribe to a channel with 1,000 subs, and then watch how it'll try and pick topics that are similar, but from content creators with 5 million subscribers. Oh, well, if you want to talk about smartphones and you just followed Tech Rant, you obviously want to follow Unbox Therapy. They're the same. Why not follow this huge channel with millions of subscribers? And that's not what YouTube used to be. So I created reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles. Reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles. And if you're a new channel coming up, we allow self-promotion. You can share your own stuff. There's someone in here was talking about doing their own podcast. Share a link to the podcast. Try and utilize this service to build a little exposure, link, and then cross-post so that maybe your content will show up on a much, much larger subreddit if it's a little bit more popular on our tiny little subreddit. I want it to be a good feeder so that this can help content creators grow. But at the same time, let's say you're following someone and they're just not getting the love they deserve. I was a huge fan of Patrick Norton. And he was putting together this amazing weekly show with Shannon Morse, an expert in cybersecurity. And like they put out this beautifully polished, high production value weekly show, and YouTube, man, you'd get like 10,000 views. You can't survive on that. And people weren't sharing it. It was just sort of a foregone conclusion. Oh, it's Patrick Norton. I love Patrick Norton. I'll watch it, but I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to share it. And you're like, well, of course, that show went and died because there wasn't engagement. There wasn't participation. It never hit that tipping point where YouTube thought he was special. So reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles. And I really want to highlight some of the top stories here. I'm going to skip the first one because the first one is from some nerd, a really punchable face. And I really don't like his selection of hats. So we can skip the first place finish there. But the second place finish is awesome. Steve Litchfield. I have a hard time with TCH combinations when I'm wearing my Invisalign trays. He's got a video on the Unihertz Titan. I was just talking about Blackberries and how much I miss having Blackberries. Well, if you want a phone with a keyboard, the Unihertz Titan, the way to go. number 1, top voted of the week. Super cool dude. I really like his commentary on mobile, and I'm going to be on his podcast in a couple weeks. So again, if you needed to hear me rattle on more about phones and YouTube and algorithms, I'm going to be on his show. I'm really looking forward to that. I like the tone of his conversations, and I feel like we're going to have a good time chatting some stuff out. LFA, hashtag some questionable hat guy. Such a punchable jerk face. I hate that guy. All right, moving right along. Number 2, Samsung charging dock Pogo for Galaxy Tab S5e S6. We got Latrell Jennings, 32,000 subscribers. Number 3, oh, I loved this video. LFA reviews. Only at 35,000 subscribers. LFA needs like an extra 0 at the end of that subscriber toll. Speaker amp that rocks. SMSL DA8's amplifier review. If you want to get amped and you really want to properly drive some audio kit, gotta look at some amplifiers. And man, it's so much fun to dig through that kind of content. Rounding out the rest of the top 10, TK Bay with his full review on the TCL 10 Pro and 10L. We've got Param looking at video codecs and why the MediaTek Dimensity 1000 processor is special. TK's Saturday morning with a slice of tech. He had a contest. He gave away an Honor View 10. Then my sister from another mister, Trisha Hirschberger, with another Naked Truth episode. Doofy Hat Guy talking about the V60 versus the OnePlus 8. And the Man About Tech, Viper, 1 week with the 12.9 iPad Pro 2020, the beast mode of iPads. We got a bunch of stuff in here too. D. Nimmons talking about doing some splash and color effects in Snapseed. Joshua Vergara, one of the most thoughtful reviewers I know, talking about the Pixel Buds. Camera Conspiracies, a message to Pixel Peepers. A video about AliExpress versus Amazon. A long-term look back at the Galaxy S7. Gadget Bite looking at phones under $200 for 2020, and Painfully Honest Tech, everything wrong with the iPhone SE. Good times. So, I put this call to action out there every week, more than ever before. If you've got content creators you follow, content creators you enjoy, any participation is extremely valuable these days. For those of you that have the means and that can support, if it's buying someone a cup of coffee, a YouTube subscription, a Twitch subscription, a Patreon follow, that's hugely appreciated. Again, it's literally what helps keep the lights on here in the Gadget Lab, let alone other smaller creators who don't even have my size following. But beyond that, if there's anything you can do, sharing on social media, upvoting, clicking an up arrow, the minimum of effort to make something a tiny bit more popular on Reddit, that effort is just hugely appreciated. It's never been more difficult, in my opinion, for someone to build, maintain, and grow a channel. And right now, even though people are consuming online media like never before, it seems that these big players are making pivots away from homegrown content creators, smaller channels, the more human and organic fan base of people that are enthusiasts for these types of topics. Part of my solution is to make this subreddit. So this is one place where you can share and upvote and comment on content, and I hope you use it. But outside of that, even on your own social media channels, even on your own personal platforms, emailing a coworker, I saw this video, I think you should watch it. All of those efforts matter, and they matter a lot. And you might not always get the kudos or the thumbs up or the thank yous that you think you deserve for participating, but know that we see it and we appreciate it, and our channels literally cannot survive without it. Reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles. If you've never been before, I guarantee you're going to find channels you've never seen through YouTube's recommendations, and that you'll probably find someone that you have to subscribe to and that you're going to love what they put out. Again, we want a broader, more diverse look at gadgets. We don't want tech commentary completely steamrollered and occupied by 5 channels with millions of subscribers, and that's all we really have the bandwidth to talk about. There's way more in tech to talk about than just the trendiest trending topics on YouTube. So, moving right along. Hey, Simon says Hypno. Okay, I just joined this Reddit malarkey. LFA, I added 7 subs to your Twitch today just because I like your hats. Oh, LFA, adding the subscriptions, man. Thank you so much. Oh, that's awesome. And are there promoted links? I don't see it. I'm the moderator of this. I made this subreddit and I'm not seeing it. You know what I'm gonna have to do is log out. I didn't know if there were annoying promoted links on this sub. Apparently, we're getting just enough traffic for Reddit to start paying attention to us and start throwing on more advertising and promotions. I guess that's cool. I don't get anything from that. Oh, that's also part of it. I am using uBlock. I am using an ad blocker. I have my favorite YouTube channels whitelisted. I don't have my own subreddit whitelisted for uBlock. All right, let's get into some gadget chat real quick before we hit the Xperia. I got to talk about my darling, my favorite, my shill brand. Everything they do is correct. It's so warm in here right now. Apologies, I'm sweating like crazy. Nothing they do is ever wrong. You're wrong for questioning them and for not, giving them the win in every phone battle, phone comparison. I am, of course, talking about LG because WTF LGPR. We might as well make that a hashtag at this point. Hashtag WTF LGPR. This got a fun little round of sharing. I have to call this out. LG already has enough issues with PR and with promotions and with marketing, advertising. Who thought this would be a good idea? So this one coming by way of Android Authority. LG Poland thought the V60 was great for upskirt shots in a now deleted video. Posted up on TikTok. It's everything that you would never want associated with your brand. A stupid TikTok video. First of all, I mean, I'm not hating on TikTok, but like, why use TikTok for? What kids are you reaching to try and sell the LG V60? Sorry, I got to take a breath. Basically, woman sees creeper old guy shooting pictures of her. She's walking up the stairs. She goes to confront him, and she sees that it's basically just a bunch of selfies. And then as she turns around, he flips out the second screen on the V60 to show that he was taking photos of her walking up the steps. When I started reviewing phones, it was actually something that I didn't understand, but I thought was just sort of like a bug or a defect. The very first phone I got from LG PR was the LG G4. And it came as a South Korean model. If you know anything about the Asian distribution of smartphones, you cannot disable the camera shutter sound without jumping through some software malarkey. I like the word malarkey. I already forgot who said it. Because in certain areas of the planet, there is a big problem with creepers using phones to take photos of women in, sort of compromising ways. So it's just baked in. You cannot disable the shutter sound, and that has persisted up today. And when I got to review the LG V50 with the dual screen case, the shutter sound cannot be disabled. We can disable it on American software. Apparently, this hasn't been as pervasive an issue here in the United States. Why would you lean into that ridiculous mentality for marketing materials? Why would you ever link the identity of your brand with a reprehensible practice like trying to sneak upskirt shots of women when they don't know that you're doing that? I don't get it. And that, again, I know people who work on the LG PR team. I know LG North American marketing. They're good dudes. They've actually really struggled with how to position their products and how to get tech outlets to talk about it. And are there other influencers that they could be reaching out to? And where can you pivot to try and reach a broader audience? The V60 is currently on sale at Verizon for $550. And that's probably not because it's so great, but because there's so little confidence in the label and the brand. And now we're going to have a bunch of articles like this one talking about LG PR thinking it's cool and hip for the kids to show old creeper men using our products to take photos of girls' underpants. I don't get it. I just don't understand. And it makes me so sad. It's so supremely frustrating. Again, and if you watch the video, it's just so tasteless. It's so poorly done and not funny. And it's not to say you can't do racy stuff in advertising, but it's not funny. And that's the cardinal sin. Like, if this could somehow be mocked, where, the person taking the upskirt shot was somehow made foolish or made fun of, or, maybe it's not him holding the dual screen phone, but she's using the selfie cam so she can see him, and that's what the dual screen is. There are so many ways to do this where the creeper doesn't win, and it makes the phone look cool. I can't. I'm so frustrated. Like back during the Bored at Work podcast days, the original run of the SGGQA podcast, when I was hosting the Pocket Now podcast, we have freely given so many ideas to LGPR to try and improve the promotion of their products, and this is what they put out in Poland. From Usakuraku. That's why they put it on TikTok. From Root Night 5. Sadly, that's the kind of 90s bad humor that still lives in classic comedy. Blech. Again, think about how many movies have not aged well because of that. All right, folks. From Matt Tyler, we won't promote the shill guy with this LG, so now you're definitely hashtag Juan plus shill guy. Well, folks, I think it's time for me to become Sony shill guy, because I have this beauty here, and it's pretty messy because I hit the ground running as aggressively as I could. That the Sony Xperia 1 Mark II, the Sony Xperia 1 2. Let's check in on our Twitch poll. What are we calling this? Okay, we're tied. So there's Xperia 1 Mark II and the Mark II are currently tied with 3 votes apiece. So they're occupying 43% of the vote. No one likes Xperia 1 second gen. No one likes that. One person likes Xperia 1 2. So there's 1 vote for that. So LFA reviews. Apparently, I'm hashtag soundcore shill guy. So I'm going for Xperia 1. I'm going for the Mark II. That's what I'm going to be calling this phone, without the full brand name and the full product name, because it's a good Iron Man pun. And I even downloaded. Oh wait, where's the folder for it? I even downloaded this image so that you can kind of rock your Iron Man Mark II armor with your Xperia Mark II. So I'm calling this the Mark II, at least until we see if we get an Xperia 5 second gen. All right, I got this phone Saturday midday, like just before lunchtime, and immediately just started digging in as much as I could on camera comparisons and shooting it against the LG V60. So that's the video that I put out. It's actually getting some decent traction. Everyone on our Android is very upset by my tone in that video as they clutch their pearls about me sharing my opinion on YouTube algorithms. But the long and short of that video, I'm going to get to that in just a second, Aditya and Anil. We got to talk about audio and DAX. The long and short of that video, I don't believe there is a clear winner between what the V60 offers and what this Xperia offers. But never before have I seen as clearly distinct a difference in demographics. This is a part of a much longer conversation. It's why I made the video the way I made it, is because I cannot talk about this phone for average consumers. Same thing with the V60. I mean, a little less if you're buying the V60 on Verizon, but I cannot talk about the V60 as an average consumer phone. I really do genuinely believe that average consumers just looking to cover the basics of smartphone ownership are going to be much happier shopping phones around $400. You're going to be buying less stuff, but it's less stuff that you're probably not going to use. And I just don't think it's responsible, even though we know a lot of people, when they buy really expensive phones, are only going to use them in a very lowest common denominator kind of way. I don't think it's responsible as tech reviewers to highlight that as the sort of preferred audience, the preferred consumer demographic. This is a $1,200 phone. Now on B&H, it's going to be a $1,200 phone, and you're going to get some awesome earbuds included, those Sony 1000 XM3s. Those are baller true wireless earbuds, and they retail for around $200. So, but you're still spending $1,200 on this phone. I have to look at this phone as, how do I get $1,200 worth of use out of this device? And it's not, well, I kind of fired off 2 photos in full auto mode and then I used it to open Instagram. That is not what this product is designed for. And so in a way, it sounds like I'm kind of slighting the Xperia because I'm saying, you know, like, if you're only going to push shutter button and you want the juicy HDR, go buy a Pixel, especially an A-series Pixel. You will be happier with that experience, and then you'll be pleasantly surprised that you spent way less on it. But if you're getting a phone like this, or you're getting a phone like the V60 or the Galaxy S series, a top-of-the-line Huawei, this new Moto Edge, if you're spending near this $1,000 price tag, what can you do with it? What do you do with your phone that warrants spending $1,000 plus? I feel I have sort of a more aggressive use for content creation, for video shooting, for editing and rendering on device. And to me, this phone makes a lot of sense. This is a device that expands and caters on a top tier of how we can push a phone to its creation limits. And maybe even a little beyond those limits too. So that video showdown isn't, let me show you 3 photos. You know, this is a photo taken in daylight, and this is a photo from the zoom sensor, and this is a photo with the HDR, and this is a 10-second snippet of video, and you can see the image stabilization. The showdown is really, can we get into the granular differences of what does Pro mean to LG versus what does Pro mean for an Xperia? And I really like what Pro means for an Xperia. Yes, I know if I double tap the side of the screen, you give me, no, I don't want to use the side sense tutorial. Start, just do the side sense. That's another thing too. I don't like it when phones try to help me. That sounded weird. Oh, darn it, phone. How dare you try and make things easier for me? Anyway. So yes, what we've got here, kind of go through some of the spec sheet because I don't really read specs in my reviews. UHD resolution, vertical. So this is 3,840 pixels from top to bottom, OLED display. I'm still getting into some of, you're not going to be able to see it in this podcast. You're going to have to wait until I put out a better video on this. But there is a special mode on this. It's not true 90 hertz, but it's sort of like a software interpolation that tries to make this feel like a snappier and more responsive screen. I'm only a day into using it. I'm not sure it's delivering what Sony is claiming it can deliver, but it is a noticeable difference when you turn on and off this motion smoothing. So again, some positives there. This improves on nearly everything that I liked about the Xperia 1. I like that we've gotten rid of the curved edges on the Xperia 1. We now have flat sides. I didn't realize how much it bothered me on the original Xperia 1 until we lost it on the Mark II. On the Xperia 1, on the One Mark II, one more time. On the Mark II, the power button and fingerprint sensor are one piece. On the original Xperia 1, there was a power button and a separate fingerprint sensor. That was terrible because this space right here in between the power button and the shutter button, the dedicated camera shutter button, you couldn't mount the phone. So I've got like a little Gorilla Pod and you can kind of clip it in place. There is now enough space. Do I have? Yes, I've got my Jobby over here. There is now enough space on the Xperia 1 Mark II to perfectly slot in between the power button and the camera shutter button. This is a phone that really does want to encourage you to use mounts, gimbals, and tripods. If you're going to make something with the phone, this little stretch of dead space helps tremendously because it gives you options on how you can really connect this to other accessories and to other pieces of production equipment. It's such a small thing, but it does significantly improve the functionality of the device, especially for this targeted look at content creation, at making stuff. We get a slightly larger battery. It's still a bit small considering the screen size and the resolution and the powerful processor, but we do move up to what I would say is an adequate battery for a phone this size, given all of the internal specs, that 4,000 milliamp hour battery. I liked the cameras on the Xperia 1, but we go to the larger camera sensor on the Mark II. That is already proving to be a pretty nice step up for things like low light photography, the depth of field. I shared a photo on Instagram and I needed to be clearer. I shared a close-up photo of a thistle, nothing too fancy, just, what I find walking around outside my condo. And people thought it was the bokeh mode. So all these comments talking like, oh man, look at this amazing edge detection. No. That's the natural depth of field fall off, the natural bokeh from this camera sensor lens combination. And it's gorgeous. These new larger camera sensors are phenomenal. Oh, and I see Sam gifting some subs too. So LFA and Sam, thank you so much for supporting on the Twitch. I really appreciate it. I caught Sam. I'm sorry I didn't catch when you were doing that, LFA, but I do appreciate it. Thank you so much. That's supremely exciting. We're closing in on camera sensors that are going to start rivaling, some of the nicer super zoom point and shoot cameras that are going to start rivaling my micro 4/3 cameras. Like, the notion that you can make something with the phone has never been more accessible than it is today. And some of those improvements, things like camera sensor size, so appreciated. Again, it really does make your stuff look better when you've got bigger camera guts to play with. What else? Oh, wireless charging. I think faster wired charging. The Xperia 1 did not have wireless charging. That's not as big a draw for me. I don't feel like losing wireless charging is a huge deal breaker. In fact, again, it can maybe be used to better preserve your battery if you're not always using Qi charging. Oh, and Osaka's asking, that photo of the thistle was taken with the Photo Pro app. The Photo Pro app is pretty exciting. I completely spaced on whether or not, I don't think I've got it over here. Oh, man. I was going to try and do like a screen share so that we could look at the camera app, but I'm not going to be able to do that. I have no idea where that cable went. Sorry. It would have been terrible audio podcasting anyway, but I was going to try and show it on the video. But just to kind of pull it up and you can see the back of the Gadget Lab and my hand on the viewfinder. If you've ever shot on a Sony Alpha camera, you basically get a Sony Alpha layout. And it's fantastic. Even down into, hold on, let me go this a little closer. And then this is going to be super shaky cam, but I'm going to focus in there. Okay. So this is me talking to you through the Sony Xperia 1. I got to kind of center it here. Yeah, that kind of works. That doesn't work at all. I'm sorry, guys. But you can see all of those controls and dials, like you get these little haptic pulses as you make exposure adjustments. And then it all works through the shutter button. So it turns your phone into a proper camera. And I love that so much, especially considering that we have flat sides back. So because we have these flat sides, it's easier to hold on to the phone and you're shooting like it's on a camera. And look at just how quick and how sharp the eyeball focus is. I mean, come on, that's awesome. I love that. That is just so handy. This hands down is like the best layout I think I've ever seen for a camera app on a phone. It wastes no space. You don't even need to build space for a shutter button on the screen. your fingers will not block your viewfinder to make any adjustments. The only adjustment that does dial out on the display is the lens. So when you change the focal length, a little slider pops out, and that's how you zoom. But again, that's a very minimal interaction, and everything else is docked over on the side like a traditional DSLR or mirrorless camera. And then your hands don't block anything when you go to take the photo. So I know like there were some concerns and some criticisms. To me, this camera button still feels soft, like the camera button did on the original Xperia 1, but you kind of want it to be. For me, there's a definite dead space where the focus initiates, and then you push past that spongy feel and it takes the photo. But you don't want it to be clicky like the volume rocker, because when you click, you're going to move the phone more. And with image sensors getting larger, that depth of field being being even shallower than it was last year, you don't want to shake the phone if you can help it. So while I'm sure people are going to say, oh, well, this is a really spongy button. And like it kind of should be. It kind of should be soft. It takes a second to get a feel for how it should work, but you don't want a harder click. Like you don't want to have to push past a certain threshold to take the photo, especially at night. Because again, with the manual controls, you can set your own shutter speed. You can do all of that fun stuff. It's pretty. Again, I know I'm getting in like the philosophy of what it's like to use a camera. Oh, it's so nice. I love that it's like a camera. I love that it's like a regular camera. And I see no reason why phones shouldn't be able to deliver us this regular camera kind of experience. Mr. Pulp Fiction, the Xperia does have a notification LED. It's up here in the bezel, because bezels are useful. Having a little strip at the forehead of a phone is useful. And I love that there is no interruption on this amazing display. There's nothing that's going to cut into your films. There's nothing that's going to block part of your gaming. I haven't done any gaming on it yet because I've been shooting with the camera so much. But I love having an uninterrupted display. I don't mind having this forehead bezel back. And it gives us a little bit more clearance for a speaker in the earpiece. Gives us a little bit more room for a front-facing bottom speaker. There are no portholes on the bottom of the phone. The speaker points towards your face as opposed to out through the bottom of the phone. Again, a beautiful consideration because you're going to be holding the phone with these speakers pointing towards your face. That's the way it should be. What else can I comment on early on? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Back to a bunch of people asking. And this phone is also super notable. This is going to be a very important phone for me to talk about this year because it's a premium device from a company that makes some of the most well-respected Bluetooth audio solutions on the market today. And unlike its predecessor, the Xperia 1, the Mark II includes a headphone jack. They brought back the jack. I really need this to be more important to people out there. Companies can make bad decisions, like getting rid of headphone jacks. And those same companies can reverse those decisions and return to the appropriate and to the correct usage of our phones. So let me put this out here. There's going to be a full audio deep dive. I'm going to be doing my speaker comparisons and my headphone charts and graphs, and let me tell you all about the quality. What I'll say here, because I've been testing it. I haven't finished it yet. This is not an LG grade audiophile DAC. This is a very normal, average performer. I can't. It does not hamper my excitement much. I was really hoping. Again, we knew this was going to be a premium phone, $1,200. This is not a just sort of an impulse buy kind of a gadget. I was hoping we'd get some of the audio processing that we'd see in like a Sony Walkman, one of their dedicated audio players. That's not what we get here. I still cannot tell you how convenient and helpful it is to have this jack back on a phone. The ability to plug in microphones. My Samsung wireless labs, you plug into here, and then you can still power the phone or connect storage or other devices to the phone through your USB port, and you're not pulling double duty, putting extra strain on the USB port. Being able to have an audio input is so helpful if you're really going to use this phone for what it's designed to be used for that tier of making stuff, making content with the phone. It's a little easier to sort of accept some of the audiophile grade limitations when it's just handier to have. You know, again, I'd plug in some cabled earbuds or, you know, like some KZs, $20. You've got dual drivers and a microphone. You can take phone calls. And yeah, it's connected on a cable, but you'll never have to charge them. There's so many times you go and pick up even some decent true wireless and you're like, oh man, I forgot to charge them. You never have to worry about that if you have a headphone jack. And you don't have to mess with the dongle. You don't have to put extra strain on your USB port. It's one less thing to lose, and it's just built in. So even while I'm not going to be able to award this some kind of special premium music listening award in that category, in that tier of products, I'm just so happy to have it back. And I'm just hoping that this is a trend that we see return with other manufacturers. You know, Samsung cannot claim to have the same audio expertise as Sony in the space of, you know, amazing studio grade equipment, amazing consumer grade equipment. Samsung bought out AKG. They really haven't done much with that label. AKG is my favorite audio microphone manufacturer. The AKG C414 XLS is one of the all-time best, greatest studio microphones ever made. But we haven't seen that really manifest in any greater tier of consumer grade audio, not like Sony has with the XM3s. So with those XM3s, we still have a company looking at giving us the ability to plug in cabled headphones more conveniently. I've got to celebrate that. That is just such a huge win for us as consumers. I got to switch mugs here. I'm all out of water on green megapixel mug, and we're back to black megapixel mug. Okay. I'm wiping more sweat because I'm getting all lit up. From Burn Notice, now we just need HTC to come back swinging. How great would it be to have like the label, the trio of like HTC, Sony, LG, these like sort of forgotten brands, but they're giving us better stereo speakers and true headphone jacks. So what else do we want to talk about? Mr. Pulp Fiction, did you import your phone from Japan? I did not. This was sent to me by Sony PR. I don't believe this is retail. It did not come in a retail box. It came in a plain brown box. So I'm going to be a little easier on things like cell reception, wireless performance. I'm probably not going to be hitting my unit too hard on that. I am not a big time channel. I am not a huge reviewer, but they saw my Xperia 1 versus V50 video last year, and they've been kind enough just to keep me in the loop. Like when they had some availability on the Xperia 5, they sent one my way. And actually Ricky, the YouTube tech guy, has my Xperia 5 right now. So mine, I'm not sure what region this would have been. I'm actually not even sure that this is completely finished hardware. But from what I've been able to see, it's like as close to retail as an unlabeled box unit can get. And the camera performance has been phenomenal. The software is right on point with what other people have shown in their Xperia hands-ons. So I'm assuming it was a reviewer unit, and that's why it didn't come in fancy packaging. What other questions? What other things do you want to know? There were other questions about the Mark II, and I'm forgetting them from earlier in the broadcast. The DTNL. Excuse me. Hashtag Jack is back. I love it. From Arthur Lee, HTC, Sony, and LG combined Voltron style. Vasicos 8, night mode, raw support, camera 2 API support, full camera 2 API, no built-in raw. I did talk about this in the video. If you didn't see my camera video and you're asking about camera stuff, then I feel like you need to watch that video Vasicos. Yes, camera 2 API support, as far as I can see, it's full camera 2 support. No raw support yet. That should be coming in a future update. And there is a low light auto mode, but no direct night mode like you've got on an LG. From LAR 1980, what is the haptic vibration response like compared to the iPhone or Pixel? Lesser. It feels a lot like the Xperia 1, which is a softer buzz, and it's not the sharp kind of pop. Pixel and iPhone, very similar in that kind of quick tactile response. I like LG's better. Let me take another drink of water here real fast. I've got a frog in my throat. I like LG's better for actually even being a slightly quicker tap of a response from the vibration motor. And I'd even take OnePlus's. The OnePlus haptics have improved significantly. The OnePlus 8 Pro has almost kind of an open hollow feel to it, where it feels like a pluck of a string. It resonates a little bit more as like a bounce, a really sharp attack, but with a longer decay. Not that you needed to know all that about haptic motors. The Sony is not in that tier. It's accessible. It's a definite buzz, but it's not as defined a pulse as the haptic engines from some of those other manufacturers. Sam, that's dirty. I can't say that on my podcast. How is the battery life so far? 4,000 milliamps. Is it enough? I can't speak to that just yet. I still haven't even put my SIM card in it. My SIM card is still in my OnePlus 8 Pro. And it bounces back and forth between my OnePlus 8 Pro and my V60 because I'm finishing up that video too. So I'm going to be getting to that on the Xperia. But I can't comment just yet because right now my battery stats are all sideways because of camera use. And it's doing better. I got one thermal warning yesterday in the heat of the day after shooting for a couple hours, but nothing like where we were on Sony's like during the XZ days, where if I shot for 5 minutes of HD video under air conditioning, the phone would lock up because it was running too hot. So we're doing a lot better. From Heiki, how are the controls for audio and the Pro video mode? They're good. Again, I showed that off in the video, the comparison between the V60. They are not LG grade, but they are better than Filmic. So again, a nice step above. Oh, well, I can have Pro modes too. I just need to install Filmic. Filmic is great. Filmic is a great solution if your phone only came with an auto mode, but it does not compare to the purpose-built software directly supporting the hardware of a phone like the V60 or the Mark II. Let's see. From Vazikos 8, 4K 60 on the wide angle. Come on, Sony. And also LG dropped it too. I don't understand why people don't support 60 frame per second video on the wide angle anymore. So far, the only ones I know of in Android land are the G8 and the V50. They even dropped it on the V60. It drives me nuts on the V60 because if you accidentally switch to the wide, it resets your frame rate on the main camera sensor. It's such a pain. From Matt Tyler, I hate the front camera on the Xperia 1. I need to know how improved it is on the Xperia 1 Mark II for video calls, etc. So I'll be taking a look at that. I was shooting almost exclusively from the Pro apps, and the Pro apps do not support the front-facing camera. They assume you are not, just sort of vlogging from an Xperia. An Xperia is a production camera, like a Sony Alpha. You are not taking selfies with your Sony Alpha. Is there a time limit for 4K recording? Not that I can see. So if I fire this up on the Cinema Pro, and let me switch over my project. I've got a project in 60 frames per second. So we're going to go back to 60 FPS. Perfect. Come on. There we go. Which I really like that this is project-based. It saves all of your settings. Very, very helpful. And let me just push video now. and it just runs a ticker. So really, I think you can shoot 4K video until the phone overheats, and I'm not sure how long that would be in one straight burst. And as you can see, it's very warm in here because I am sweating a lot. Let me delete that video because I don't need that in my timeline when I go back for the camera comparisons. TK covered that it does have 21 watt fast charging. You should be good for around 50% recharge in about 30 minutes, but it's probably a little slower than that unless you've completely shut it down. From JJ, speaking of LG marketing failures, still burned that they did not take advantage of fly like a G6, like a G6, like a G6. Adichie Anil, they rightfully assume that you're an educated creator who uses the superior sensor to capture higher quality content. Okay, I need to comment on that because I am a little snobby. I hate shooting video from almost all front-facing cameras. The closest I've gotten to feeling like, okay, I could use this is on the iPhone 11 Pro. It's the closest I felt to like, if I needed to, I could. But even then, so much nicer taking, rear video, just flipping it around and then just using it that way. I think I enjoy Sony's aesthetic because they are similarly snobby. If you've ever used, hold on, let me see if I can pull this up here. So here, let me try and show this off. Let me refocus. So this is the Sony Xperia camera app, not their Photo Pro app. Nothing works like any other phone. I can kind of tap to get some eye focus there, and that's about it. And when you switch, oh, whoops, just messed that up. When you switch over to video, nothing. You have zero control over Xperia video. Like, I'm tapping, there's no focus, I can't force it to do anything. This phone knows better than you do. And you just have to accept that on an Xperia, the Xperia will always be right and you will always be wrong. And there's something that appeals to me in that kind of engineer mentality. Sony engineers had a mission, they had a goal, that's how they made their product, and it doesn't work like any other device out on the market. The Sony Auto Camera app is completely unfamiliar if you've ever shot on like an iPhone or a Samsung. It's a struggle. For me, it's almost unusable in that first day until I get back into a feel for how it's supposed to work, which is another reason why I would really not position this phone as your casual daily driver, average consumer kind of phone. It will not look or work or feel anything like what people are accustomed to or what people are used to. So Aditya's comment there, they assume that you're going to capture higher quality content. You can see they are making some very specific assumptions as to who their target consumers might be. And then you add that to the Sony Alpha team and the Alpha cameras. And they're like, okay, we're not even going to bother with the selfie camera. We're only going to focus on the good camera on the phone. That's what you can control. That's what you get. And that's it. From Mr. Pulp Fiction, what feature do you miss the most on the Xperia 1 Mark II? So if we're talking about from the Xperia 1 to the Mark II, there's nothing. There's nothing I miss. In fact, everything is better on the Mark II. The form factor is better. The display looks like it's going to be a little sharper and a little quicker. The power button is gone. I'm so happy the power button is gone. The main camera sensor is better. The zoom and the wide angle are about the same from what I can tell. Like I don't see, well, that's not true. The wide angle does have autofocus now, but similar IQ. Like I'm not seeing any immediate from my old samples of the Xperia 1. I'm not seeing any radical differences in the output from this camera, but I like that I can now focus. That helps a lot when you're looking at what the camera app does. The Photo Pro app is better. Like everything's better. So I don't miss anything from the Xperia 1. But the thing that I wish it had, and the thing that I wish more Android manufacturers would make comparable, is I do wish it had 60 frame per second recording on that ultra wide. It really does bother me. You know, like on the V50, we had 60 frames per second on all 3 rear cameras, but then you were locked to 1080p 30 frames per second from the selfie camera. Now on the V60, we've got great 60 frame per second UHD video on the selfie shooter, but we don't have 60 frame per second video on the ultra wide. And the same thing with the Sony. Like, I want to be able to natively move to any camera on the device and have the same controls, options, and settings. I don't care if it's a selfie camera. I don't care if it's a telephoto or an ultra wide. I want them all to be the same. And right now, it forces you into a different workflow. If I want to shoot ultra wide, I can only shoot 30 frames per second. All right, I guess. Sure. So that's kind of a bummer for me. Let me scroll through some of these here. Kyle Ruggles. Yeah, it's like using a Hasselblad in auto. Why would you do that? I mean, there is, and it's hilarious. There is a green box mode in Photo Pro. Hold on, let me pull this up. This cracks me up. So you get a dial just like you get on a Sony camera, and there is a full auto, and it is the green box mode. That is so funny. I've been shooting mostly in program mode, but the manual is so good too. And then from LAR1980, I can see this phony phone being potentially bundled with the PlayStation 5 as part of mobile contracts here in the UK towards the latter part of early next year if sales aren't great. Again, so many tie-ins. Sony opened the door for PlayStation compatibility, so now almost all Android devices can stream PlayStation 4 gaming, but good support for DualShock. Hook it up. It's a powerful enough processor. I'm thinking about doing some game streams just to see. TK is going to be handling more of the gaming commentary. I'm going to be touching on it in my By the Benchmarks review because I want to see if this phone can kind of keep up with some of the other Snapdragon 865 devices. But I am looking at, like, what are some games that I can regularly count on? So I'm looking at Bright Ridge, Battle Chasers, Sky, Children of the Light, some of my twin stick shooters. So I want to have a little fun and see what this can do. But I also want to see, is there anything that Sony brings specifically to the table that might help gaming? From Bray Gray, I'm just glad they included 24 frames per second. So many Android phones don't. Not only 24, but in video, there's also an option for 25 frames per second, which is pretty cool, especially if you're one of them European type people or UK type people. Mr. Pulp Fiction, LG's headphone jack is still better, right? I believe I said that yes, the V60's headphone jack is going to punch above the Sony's. But I just can't, I can't belittle the headphone jack here. It's just so much better to have the headphone jack, even if it's not as good. Even if it's not as good as the LG jack. I want it. I just need that back. Diego de Oliveira, try some emulators. So I like to mess around with emulators. For my public videos, I really need to make this a little bit more clear because people have said, if you really want to stress test a device, you need to use Dolphin. And I agree. But emulators get a bit sticky because I still feel that there is a philosophical issue in where did you get the ROMs and how are creators and license holders sort of appropriately compensated for work. It's not a cut and dry issue. It's not, for me, it's a little more complicated than just ROMs should be free or people should have access. It's tricky. But then also, I really want to highlight, I really want to advocate be an advocate for developers making good native apps. So Sky, Children of the Light, was kind of a revelation of a game to play on iOS. And I was kind of sad, like, oh man, I've got to play this on an iPhone, and an iPhone is not my preferred gaming platform, mobile gaming platform. And then it came to Android. So I want to show that. Here's this amazing, beautiful fantasy exploration game, and it's a native Android app now. I want to highlight that. Battle Chasers, if you're into JRPGs, is a fantastic PC port. And it's brutal. I mean, you got to have a powerful device. They took this PC game and shoved it on your phone. Same thing for Rockstar, supporting older titles like Grand Theft Auto. Oddworld, the Oddworld collection being on Android. KOTOR being on Android. There's so many good console and PC ports that I want to highlight as being on, a place for Android gaming. And then on top of that, good Android games. So I tend to not focus on emulators because I also want to use my channel, what little platform I have, as a way to help promote good trends in mobile gaming. And I think a very good trend is to see some of the amazingly high quality games that you can play that are native to the platform. So I'll leave people I'll leave a discussion on emulation to someone else to focus on what they might care to stress test on a device. Arthur Lee, I want to see GTA 5 on Android. I do too. Now that I have it for free on the Epic Game Store, I finally got that as it was melting down. Some people, again, this could be true. Goran Petrovic, I was being ironic, but it might be true. The V60 could easily be the last LG with that sweet 3.5 millimeter jack. I hope that there's a clear divide between LG Pro devices and LG fashion devices. The Velvet does not have the ESS quad DAC. I haven't used the phone. I don't have access to the phone. I can't test the phone, but I'm hoping it's still good. The Qualcomm DAC on the V60 is very good. And again, what we want to see is a good amp paired with that so that you can drive decent headphones. But I hope that there's still a divide between a top tier professional grade LG phone with the full quad DAC beast mode amp, and then something like the Velvet where consumers might not care that they've got a crazy amp because they're only plugging in, small earbuds or something like that. I hope. I don't know. Again, it's LG, so all bets are off. But just wrapping this up, I'm going to be streaming with TK on Tuesday afternoon. And then TK is going to be streaming on Friday. And I think I'm going to be joining his stream on Friday. And I'm hoping we can dig up a few other people. I was kind of surprised. The embargo for the Mark II lifted last night. Sunday night is not a good time to put out videos on YouTube. But the embargo lifted, and TK and I were the only ones to jump on the embargo. So our videos were some of the only videos from North American creators. And now we're starting to see a couple other outlets sharing and promoting some of their content. But this has made such a huge impression in its first day. It's going to be for a very specific consumer. I don't believe any phone this year has gotten any kind of broad recommendation from me. But I'm so happy that I can point to very specific people that I think would love this phone. Even if there's not this fallacy of, well, it's got to be good for everyone. Pros and cons. There are definitely going to be some big cons with this phone. And yet still, at the launch price, I can still think of a handful of people I think, man, if I could get this phone in their hands, they would probably give up on their current smartphone. They would love what this phone could do. This would definitely appeal to them. And that is one of the major aspects I hope to be highlighting in these videos coming up. I'm so tired of glass on glass sandwiches all generically arriving to sort of do the same things that Samsung and Apple are doing. I want to see bigger risks and more targeted consumer demographics. I want to see more specific options for different people out there. You know, the conversation between this phone and a V60 is a radically different conversation, even though they're both $1,000-ish devices with all the bells and whistles. And I feel like that's what it should be. Like in the laptop market, you don't go out there and recommend gaming laptops to your grandparents. That would be overkill. You're not looking at people who need mobile workstations and saying, well, what you should get is a MacBook Air. That's the most popular MacBook, is the cheapest one. So why do you need that beast of a MacBook Pro? You really need a MacBook Air. That doesn't happen. But in the smartphone ecosystem, we seem to be fine saying $1,000 phone and average consumer in the same breath. And the Xperia really disavows you of that relationship. I hold this phone and I covet this phone and I enjoy this phone. And I don't think of anyone in my circles of family and friends who would be happy with this phone for just covering the basics. So when we want to see more gaming phones. We want to see workstation phones, productivity phones, note competitors, fold competitors. I want more, even though we know each one of those devices is probably going to sell a little bit less. But I want that target. I want that focus. And I want good options. And the V60 versus the Mark II, that exactly, it's like two phones built for me, but in different ways. And that makes me so happy. Mr. Pulp Fiction, will Juan and TK Bay stream on YouTube? Yeah, our streams are going to be on each of our channels. So I think my stream is going to be Tuesday and TK stream is going to be Friday. YouTube.com/Juan Bagnell, TKDSL8655. I'm not sure exactly what his YouTube link is, but we'll be talking about it on Twitter. But come join the live chats. We're going to have a lot to talk about. TK's dug a little bit deeper into the phone side of this. I've dug a little bit deeper into the camera side of this. And then tomorrow, we're going to be able to kind of highlight and share a bit broader kind of overlook on what on what we think the phone can do. From Osakuraku, any news on the Xperia Pro? Nothing yet. I mean, honestly, the Mark II caught me by surprise. I was sort of just in a back and forth conversation with Sony PR, and it kind of came out of nowhere. Hey, we actually do have an extra review unit if you want one. And we're like, yeah. And so I got the phone, and then they're like, oh, by the way, the embargo lifts on Sunday. And I'm like, okay, I've got 12 hours. Cool. JJ, to quote Billy Idol, with a rebel yell, more, more, more. I love it. From Ship to the Sun, I guess my week is set. TK and Juan streams all week. And from Matt Tyler, after using the Xperia Mark II, are you excited to use the Xperia Pro with more features? I am ridiculously anxious to see if we can make the Xperia Pro work in North America. Right now, one of the biggest challenges is just the carrier issues. It looks like the Xperia Pro really is built to embrace millimeter wave technologies. That means it's only going to work on Verizon. And I'm not sure if any cell phone manufacturer outside of Samsung can make a play at unlocked and Verizon compatibility on millimeter wave. And I don't know if Verizon will pick up another Sony phone. And I don't know that Sony would want to do business with Verizon again. Sony has been super cold to the North American market in a very Nokia kind of way. Like, they do not want to play ball with North American carriers. There is a lot of potential roadblocks and speed bumps to getting the Xperia Pro to properly work with everything that they want to promise on the Xperia Pro in North America. But that being said, the ability to use that thing as an external display, the integrated compatibility with Sony cameras, the fact that it's designed to become part of the brain and modem for Sony cinema and production cameras, that's insane. I mean, that's stuff that's above my pay grade for the type of work that I do. I mean, like, if I can, I really want to get my hands on the Pro, as I feel it will take the word pro on a smartphone up to a new, proper professional level. Like, I didn't get too angsty about, the OnePlus 7 Pro. I didn't really get too snarky about the TCL 10 Pro. But seeing Xperia Pro and seeing that how it's designed to fit into broadcast equipment workflow, that could be really interesting. And I'm very curious to see how they can coordinate that with the North American market being as messed up as it is currently. And yeah, the Xperia Pro doesn't look like it's going to be coming to the UK. That was pretty funny, Simon says Hypno. Vazikos 8, Nokia, PureView, another phone to enter the ring with LG and Sony. Again, I would love to see them continue. I'm a bit disappointed in how the Nokia 9 was handled. So I'd like to see Nokia win people back with better support and some camera features that were lacking. Route Night 5. I've read people claiming pro grade is for equipment that makes auto modes as good as a proper calibrated manual shoot. Well, that's not true. Yeah, because I've seen that a lot. I mean, I saw a lot of people saying things like that with the iPhone 11 Pro. Well, with the iPhone 11 Pro in auto mode, I can capture video that other phones need a pro mode to capture. And that's not true. It's categorically not true. And the people that say things like that are showing that they don't camera as well as they claim to. The reason why you have a pro mode, manual controls, manual options, is because you are trying to craft something specific. You are trying to make something with the look that you imagine. And no auto mode can read your mind, and no auto mode can predict what you want your final output to be. By definition, manual controls are manual, and so no auto mode will ever be able to replicate that as part of the workflow. I mean, there is something to be said for that consumer experience where it's so easy to get great, vibrant looking video out of an iPhone. But every time I pick up an iPhone and the white balance starts jumping all over the place and the shutter speed starts changing with minor differences in exposure conditions around me, I walk through a shadow and it instantly tries to brighten up my scene. And then I leave the shadow and the shutter speed is all jacked up. That is not what a pro wants. When I'm trying to make something, I want that stuff locked down and I want it consistent. I can keep it pretty consistent on an LG. I can save those project settings and come back to them anytime I want on a Sony. And that's kind of huge. So, again, to me, it's a lot like saying, like, I've got this amazing camera, but I only shoot it in full auto. There is that snobby disdain. I am looking down my nose at a specific kind of mentality. Someone bought something nice, but then they're not really using it to get their money's worth. The output is going to look like any other camera because you're shooting full auto. Green box mode doesn't teach you anything about photography. It doesn't improve your content. It doesn't help you grow as a content creator. And now I'm looking at phones that can genuinely start an educational process where someone could spend $1,200 and start getting more out of their camera right out of the box. No additional apps, no extra in-app purchases, nothing like that. And that makes me excited. They will probably not love the full auto experience of using a Sony, but they've got tools that could transfer them into a Sony Alpha. They'll learn a workflow that could transfer them into an A7. That to me is is worth celebrating. I like that. So we should probably start wrapping this up. I already said that before. My voice is starting to get really fuzzy here. So let me just make sure I didn't miss anything here. Okay, good. All right, folks. I got to jump to it. It's Memorial Day, and I still want to spend some time with my family, but I want to thank you for spending some time with me this week. I really appreciate you folks taking the time, hanging out, getting to chat about some good nerdy tech, following me on some news discussions and topics. I wipe my face again because it's so hot in here. We didn't have the leaf blowers. I was happy they got Memorial Day off. My poor landscapers out there. Folks, lots of stuff coming to the channel. I am not sure I'm going to be able to get everything done, but we've got a headphone review coming out. We've got some gaming accessories to make your desk really pretty with some fun RGBs. We've got a pixel art Bluetooth speaker. We've got Sony Xperia to talk about. We've got OnePlus 8 Pro versus LG V60. I'm halfway through shooting a TCL 10 Pro review. I have the iPhone SE review locked and ready to go. We've got a lot of content. Again, for those of you here in this live stream, I have not consistently or properly thanked everyone for the support, for the help sharing, promoting. I see the tweets. Man, when I put out that Sony Xperia review camera video last night, I was pretty sure that video was going to die. And all of you folks on Twitter totally proved me wrong. And it's been one of the best performing videos of the month. And it's only been out for a day. I cannot thank you enough for continuing to hang out, to help, and to share this content as we find people that genuinely enjoy these types of conversations around tech. Finding more people chatting about this kind of stuff is really exciting for me, especially beyond folks that just want me to shoot really pretty video as I read the spec sheet. There's more to talk about than just, it's got a Snapdragon 865 and 8 gigabytes of RAM. You don't need me for that. You have plenty of other places to get that. So I very much appreciate that those of you out there enjoy the different kinds of conversations I want to have. So for those of you celebrating a day like Memorial Day, the moment of remembrance, the moment of reflection, hopefully getting to spend some time with family, hopefully you get to eat some good food. Those of you not celebrating Memorial Day, just any excuse to also do likewise. Call some old friends, message some family, check in, just touch base with people you care about. And hopefully you have the opportunity to break bread with those people soon. I really hope meals are going to be shared amongst friends and family again soon. I'm going to wrap this like I have been recently. We're continuing to see some scary things out in the world today. And I know the people in this live chat, the people on the stream are some of the best resources available for helping their family and friends. And you might not get the recognition that you deserve. So I would like to thank you for being good tech neighbors, being good tech citizens, as the world is relying on gadgets more than ever before. I trust that you are the ones out there making your expertise known so that other people can benefit from what you have a passion for. This is tech is your hobby, or tech is your lifestyle, or tech is your fun activity. Your enthusiasm is gonna rub off on other people. So thank you. And thank you for being a good resource. Folks, I want you to have an amazing week with your technology. I want you to be awesome with your technology. I want you to do awesome with your technology. And I'll catch you back here for another episode of the Monday Morning Tech News Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. Stay safe. Be well. I want to see all these names in the live chat next week. I don't want anyone dropping off. I don't want anyone getting hurt. I don't want anyone getting sick. I love you all. Take care.